onlinechesslessons.net. In this video, I'm going to analyze a game of round 10 between Grandmaster Sokolov against Grandmaster Leko. So, okay, in this game, white plays d4, knight to f6, c4, e6. And as you know here, okay, in this game, white plays knight c3, but white can also play c3, which is the Catalan opening, and also knight f3, which is actually stopping the Nimzo-Indian defense after bishop b4. But at the same time, black can play b6 here, which is the Queen's Indian. So, you know, each possibility is different. White plays knight c3, and this allows black play bishop b4, which is the Nimzo-Indian defense. Basically, black's idea here is he wants to take on c3, and then he's destroying white's pawn structure. So white here, he can play e3 like he played in the game. Oh, he can play also bishop c5, knight f3. There are a lot of possibilities, and basically white is allowing bishop takes c3. But in my opinion, the more testing answer to bishop b4 is queen c2, which is, in my opinion, the most famous way of facing the Nimzo-Indian, because white defends the knight on c3, and then black cannot destroy white's pawn structure. For instance, if black castles here, white is going to play a3, and here as black, we had to take, because if we go back, we are wasting too many tempos with our bishop, and white can win a lot of space in the center. And if he on c3, white is going to retake, and his pawn structure is still great, and he has the bishop pair, which is great. Well, and one of black advantages here is that he's got more development. So this is compensating the fact black is lacking the bishop pair. So, well, this is a very main line. And as white, yeah, I play queen c2. But okay, white here plays e3, which is flexible as well. It's a quite solid system. Basically, white wants to play bishop d3, and then he decides whether to play knight f3 or knight e2. So let's see, black castles here, and white plays bishop d3, and black plays c5, knight f3. As I said before, white can also play knight e2. This is protecting the knight on c3, but you know, there are a lot of possibilities here, of course. But I guess in this position we can get something pretty similar to this game. In this game, we're going to see black plays against the isolated pawn on d4, like here. We are also getting an isolated pawn on d4. So basically, if white is getting an isolated on d4, I guess putting the knight on f3 is better. d5, white castles here, and c takes d4. As I said, the Nimzo is a very flexible opening, so black has a lot of possibilities here, such as taking on c4 first, bishop takes, and for instance now playing knight bd7. This is a quite solid option. He can also try playing knight c6, for instance, and we still have a lot of takes here. Usually white plays a3, and here black can play queen c7, or he can take on c4 first, followed by queen c7. And this position, well, white doesn't have double pawns anymore. He's got the bishop pair, but at the same time, the bishop on c1 It's not a great bishop yet. So, each line has advantages and disadvantages. So that is why in this opening, it's really hard to choose a line, or it's hard to decide what line is better because, as I said, all lines has advantages and disadvantages. So I like what black plays here actually because looks like easier from the practical point of view. We take everything in the center and then we play b6. Uh, Basically now, as black, our idea is to play against the isolated pawn on d4. You should know that when we play against the isolated, first thing we have to do is blockade this pawn so this pawn can't advance. Once we blockade it, uh, we should know that trading pieces is great too, because if we trade a lot of pieces, we are gonna get an endgame, and in the endgame, the only one protecting this pawn should be the king, right? The d4 pawn cannot be protected by other pawns, so that is why an endgame it's great for us. And of course, if we can try putting our rooks on the d file, that would be great as well. So I think b6 is a great move to start with. And by the way, white will try to get a powerful attack, so that is gonna compensate the fact he's got an isolated here. So bishop b7 and rook c1. Well, this move looks great, protecting the knight on c3. Here black plays h6. I think in this position I like h6, but remember, be careful with when you advance your pawns in front of your king, right? Because usually we are gonna create weaknesses around the king, and this could be a target in the future. In this case, I think it's great because now this bishop has to take a decision. He should stay on this diagonal, I think. This is why what white plays, because then the pin is still there. If we go somewhere else, then it's gonna be easier for black to play knight d5. Shouldn't be right here, or yes, but I mean it's gonna be easier, right? Because we are not under a pin anymore. Bishop h4 makes much more sense. And here comes a nice move by black, in my opinion, which is knight c6. As black, a lot of players would play knight bd7 here. Why? Because then the knights are connected and this looks safer. But the problem is now this knight is not going anywhere, right? And when we play knight c6, difference is if one day we move this bishop on b4, we are gonna play knight b4 and knight d5, and by playing this, we are blockading on d5 successfully. And it's also true that white cannot play d5. Looks great, but then we have knight to a5. We threat this bishop, and we are probably taking on d5 later. So we are gonna win a pawn there. So knight c6, it's great because we want to blockade on d5, and we also have the knight a5 trick in case white pushes d5. So white plays bishop d3. Well, if he plays something like rook e1, I guess we can still keep developing with rook c8, or maybe play bishop e7 too, right? So we continue with our idea. And also it's quite interesting to say that this knight h5, uh, this is what black plays in this game. It's a very nice move to trade pieces, because now this bishop should take, or if white plays bishop c3, we are taking anyway, and then we are trading pieces, and that's what we wanted, right? So this is the kind of position we are looking for as black, right? Trading pieces, our knight is coming back, we are blockading on d5 successfully, and as usual the d4 pawn is weak. So here, white plays bishop d3. We know we cannot take on d4, right? Because if we take, we're gonna lose the queen with bishop h7 check, and queen takes d4. So here we play in a solid way, bishop e7, and the bishop uh, has done the job already. I mean, now it's time to come back, defend everything right, and of course now we try knight b4 followed by knight d5 and bishop b1. Well, again, I think if white plays something like a3 just to stop knight b4, we can just continue with our idea, knight h5, and then we force some trades here. And I think our position is still great because we are quite solid, and in the long run, if we trade some pieces, we're gonna get an advantage, I think. And by the way, we should be happy with equality as well because we are playing black, so this couldn't be much better. When white plays bishop b1, he wants to launch an attack quickly here, so makes sense. Rook c8, great, bringing the rook to the game. White plays rook e1, pretty similar idea. And knight to h5. I think this is the best way of trading pieces for us. Usually we should consider knight d5 as well. Sometimes we have to be careful in this kind of positions, when a lot of tricks are there. Uh, Basically, when we play something like this, I'm not sure right here, right? But we have to start considering things like rook takes c6, maybe rook takes c7, I mean, or maybe bishop takes, knight takes, and in this simple position, for instance, our bishop is not playing much, but this one is, right? So, I mean, that is why when we play knight d5, we have to be very careful. For that matter, I would play knight b4 first and knight d5. But difference is with knight h5, it's not easy for white to open lines here. So if he trades, again, we'll get the position we want. We're gonna blockade on d5 successfully. So play against the isolated. Here against knight h5, white is not happy with trading pieces, so he plays queen c2. He threats mate. We play g6. Again, everything seems under control, but white plays rook takes e6. Well, looks like a surprise, but now white has a lot of threats, right? And we cannot take on e6 as black because then he plays h6. Knight g7 is only move, and here we get mated with b6. So after rook takes e6, black plays the in-between move knight f4, which is attacking the rook, defending g6, and now we attack the bishop as well. So here, white has to decide where to place the rook. If white goes here or here, we'll just take the bishop and then we win a piece. If white takes here, I guess we can just retake. And as we'll see, we have a lot of threats, right? And we are gonna destroy white's castle for sure. If this one, we can also consider knight f5, and we keep creating a lot of threats. So basically, if he plays rook e4, then knight to b4, I think it's winning. You had to make a stop here to count material, but you'll realize black is up here. And if white takes here, we'll have knight e2 check, and we keep winning material. So all these variations are not promising for white. So he plays rook takes e7, but here he's giving this change away. So as black, we have some weaknesses, but if we defend correctly, we shouldn't have any problem. Queen d2, g5. Well, this is not like winning space at kingside, but we want to also play knight c6 so our king feels more protected. And white plays knight e5. What happens if he takes on c5? If you look at this with that computer at home, yeah, you can check and you can see that taking on c5 it's winning because, yeah, we come back, we are a rook up, but in the real game, this is not that easy, right? White is going to have some counterplay, and here we should still defend carefully. So if he takes here, I would play knight here, which looks better from the practical point of view. Now white cannot defend everything at the same time, so he should play knight f3. Knight takes h4, queen takes, and here I think the easiest way is bishop takes, pawn takes, and with queen c5, we trade queens should be much easier without queens. And if we take here, I think it's also winning because here knight takes f3 and knight takes d4. We keep trading pieces, and as we know, without queens, there's no attack. So white plays knight to e5, and here we don't take any risks, and we play knight e g6. Again, we are interested in trading pieces. And here black calculates well and he plays knight takes c2. We're not interested in taking pawns actually, but when we take on c2 here, we're gonna come back and his king is gonna be full of weaknesses. So that is why, right? Queen c2 and queen f6. Again, very nice defense. If white takes on c6, we're gonna trade queens and that is like winning. If we are defending and we trade queens, it's much easier. So white tries bishop e5, queen f7, a3. White again, he's trying, but after the simple knight h4, creating a lot of threats, white tries the bishop a2, but queen takes. It's doing the job here. Here white resigns because if he takes, we're gonna take. By the way, here we are trading already, but the thing is, after free check, uh, any move, every move is losing. If he plays king c2 or king h1, then we're gonna play knight e1 and we win. And if he plays king f1, we're gonna play a6, check. Now the king cannot come here. After king c2, knight e1, it's also winning. So here we had a very nice example of how to defend, how to play against the isolated pawn. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in next videos. Take care.